pretty wild how on this earth we're so consumed and attached to a method of learning which involves pain. And I'm not against all pain, but there's so much of it here. It's not really the felt presence of experience that is per se a healthy thing. And yeah, we can develop a more healthy relationship with pain, but there comes a point with it where it's just, there isn't enough balance between the joy and the pain. And especially with how nearsighted we can get, and how forgetful we can get, and how stuck we can get. We get stuck in all kinds of little moments. And it's like, yeah, we realize okay, I can get stuck, I learned that. But it really is like a video game here. And we're on like a really tough level in the felt presence of experience. And it's kind of a dystopic way to move through this space. I have not necessarily unpopular, but just a non-talked about kind of fanciful way of being. And that is the experience of learning in a world that's more a utopia. And that's where, not to say there's no pain here, but it's not primarily pain. It's like you can learn through mystery, and there's an infinitude of felt presence of experiences. So you can experience so many different experiences in one lifetime and actually learn to grow in a healthy way. There's so many worlds out there, so many possibilities, that to be stuck in such a narrow one and such a narrow-minded space compared to the possibilities out there, that it's like we're being unfair to ourselves to be stuck in a place like this. Thankfully, it's temporary, but I'm willing to wager that there's other worlds out there that have video games that are better than the life here, or like more interesting. That's what I mean by better. I mean more enriching, like your heart is in it. Because here it's like you can learn, if your heart's not in something, you lose heart. A lot of people just go trash, and they just like treat other people like trash, and their whole aesthetic is that. Thankfully, not very many people like in my circles, but like it happens here, and it's actually quite ubiquitous. And insipid. I would love to learn through example and inspiration, and even the challenges, to have my heart in it, to have at least enough of my needs met to be aware and growing and learning in a way that isn't like degrading. And I'm just talking about like so many predictable experiences. Like, it's predictable that probably at some point most of us are going to lose our patience again at some point in traffic or with another person. Like, we have limited patience. We have it's like limited relationships, or like limited energy for people. That's why we can only be out and be in a social space for so long until we're like exhausted from that. And speaking of exhaustion, even just struggling to focus, if you have ADD, which I definitely have some kind of form of that, because every day there's hundreds of moments I get stuck, or I just like lose focus, and I've developed myself enough to kind of pause when I'm not like present, if I'm having like a catatonic moment. I had a lot of these when I was like in second grade. That's why I failed second grade, because I would just stare at the wall. Like, I just wasn't interested or engaged. And if you're not interested and engaged, if you don't have like a meaning for learning something, and the context for like the value and how it applies and why it's important to know, and and to have any of that consciousness, you aren't going to have a place to put that new information, that new data. It's just gonna, it's like you're in a huge library and you just like throw a piece of paper into it and it's just gonna get lost, and like unless it's like filed away correctly, and I had to learn how to file things away correctly. But even then, I'll be doing a task and it's almost like having amnesia, where it's like if you don't think about something hard enough, or when you remember, or like when someone introduces themselves and tells you their name, it's easy to remember, it's like forget it that quick. And it can cause neuroticism and OCD on top of having ADD, because you stress yourself to try to remember things that should just be easy. And strangely enough, since I've been supplementing with cannabis, it's kind of been like calisthenics for my memory, because it can be a challenge to remember something in such a abstract kind of felt presence of experience space. We are opened up to a lot more, and so I've learned some mnemonics, some ways of remembering something. I'll associate it with something else, and then there's some kind of association to evoke that memory. And yeah, I have a very strong imagination, and I love the aesthetic of being fantastical, and I think there's so much power in it, because if you can imagine things, if you can come up with ideas, like that's basically a god power. Like that's basically a creative thing, where if you can imagine something more interesting and more profound and creative and aesthetically pleasing than like religions that have been around for so long, you're already at a higher frequency, because you're actually creating things that aren't just recapitulated, just like it's like regurgitated from the mouths of people who've had it learned, had it taught to them. And there's something about being free from all that, which I've been blessed to break out of that kind of cycle of belief, where it's just like, this is the way and this is the conventional wisdom. But I see the conventional way just not working for people very good. Like, they don't look like they're doing good in life. And it's like, you guys are just gonna keep putting yourself through that. And like, I did that, and I was like to be creative, to read creative novels. It's like, look at what J.R.R. Tolkien did. Like, he created that whole world. And I live by the fantastical belief that anything that is imagined can be possible in a world, or even a world where there's a video game that has that experience. And the technology is probably like way better than here, to where it'd be hard to, like, in the video game, like, realize that you're in a video game. So there's so many possibilities, so many worlds, so many felt presence of experience. It's limitless, and it's very freeing to have that realization and belief, because you don't get stuck in a world where it's so polarized that people are like either all religion and God, and just like, it's like only believe in God to be saved or whatever. It's like that kind of thing where it's like, I feel like the archons here like create a problem and then bring a solution and say, we're gonna help you, and have this a deceitful kind of way of going about it, and then they're not really helping. It's like they're just causing more pain. And it's so much more empowering to come up with new ideas, instead of being in a world where it's either just all science, no God, or just obsessed with this weird idea of God that I think is a travesty to what the divine wisdom would actually be, which, if you think about unconditional love, it has no conditions. Like, you could disobey as much as you want in the concept of it and still be loved, because that would be condition free. So whatever you believe would be condition free, and you'd still be loved. Because what kind of are you actually going to worship a God that that puts an ultimatum on people and says, you must believe in me even though I won't reveal myself to you, except for in the obvious technology that's all around us? But I'm like, if there's a God, I want to talk and know and have communion, conversation, and I'm not into trying to guess and parse through this convoluted abstract construct, because all we really know is the empirical evidence, our felt presence of experience and how we encounter things, and we all encounter it and perceive this world in kind of different ways because of that. And we have common denominators, like the laws of physics. But there can be a fanciful world where the laws of physics are different, and you can unlock different things, and there's so many ways to grow and experience, and fun challenges. There's a such thing as fun challenges. It doesn't have to be painful experiences, just constantly. It's there's a whole spectrum of things to experience, and we're just in this little part where we're stuck in this kind of perpetual pain cycle. And it's okay, it's okay to experience that for a little bit and be okay, that's what that is. But that's why I think this world is a scam, maybe a hoax at best. Because once you are enlightened to see that, and then you start choosing in that way, it's not like those choices are really available as far as the felt presence of experience. You can help yourself feel better by, say, if you're having a bad day, go to a new place you've never been, try a new activity, meet some new people, eat food you've never eaten before, make a new kind of dish, eat some ice cream. There's all kinds of things you can do, but it's not really changing the felt presence of experience. The closest thing to that is smoking cannabis. That will change things. It's not it's just going to wipe away your depression, but it sure as hell is a heavy weightlifter in that way. And it kicks the depression's ass, I'll tell you, a lot of times. And so it's good to know there are things. And psilocybin, that also is a game changer. But apart from a lot of those things and practices that take years and years of meditation and practicing connecting to that felt presence of experience, some people are able to do that with more accessibility than others. Because if others could figure out how to do it, of course they would, because it feels good and it's healthy. But like I said, this world is a pretty toxic one, and my imagination does not fit in this world. It still exists, but as far as manifesting the things that I've been doing my whole life, I was even more fantastical as a child, and I still have that, but I have to move through this space in order to actually connect with people and function in this world. It's wild. But I want to start talking about this kind of thing because I think it's really important to realize just the beauty and the freedom and the expansiveness of imagination, which, like Terence McKenna said, imagination is the final frontier. There's a limitless amount of things, and we are limitless in the way where we can imagine beautiful felt presences of experience. And they're often hard to put into words, because how do you describe a feeling? And a lot of people just brush it off as daft, oh, it's just feelings and all that. But it's feelings are one of the most integral things to who you are. if you didn't feel, you would just, like, you'd be like missing a giant chunk of your sentience to not be connected with the felt presence of this space and our bodies and our minds and our feelings. Like, if someone's in a bad mood, that's gonna like affect their whole day, and that's a felt presence of experience. So yeah, like I said, I'm not like allergic to feeling bad, but it's just too much here, and I think people need to realize that. And I think the more consciousness around it, the more we can let go of our petty differences and just stupid games that we play, all the passive aggressiveness, all the jadedness, all the passive indifference, just not caring. Because if you care too much, you get let down and get upset about it. But we inevitably care about things, because that is what brings value to life, is caring about things. If you're just completely passively indifferent, you're not really going to be connecting with people in a special way like that. But you will have the ability to like let whatever negativity gets projected on you just slough off like water off a duck's back. But oftentimes we fluctuate. We go from really caring to not even, to like losing heart, you know. And yeah, it's a miserable evil to be stuck in that. And even though you can see outside of it, not feel like you have the choice to break free of that. Even though I do have hope inevitably, because I think we will eventually have a choice. Like I said, anything that can be imagined, I think is possible. And that's a beautiful belief to live in. Even though I try to live my life without abandoning myself to beliefs, without giving away my faith. Because that's more of that it's like not assuming anything, not judging anything, not trying to presume what you don't know because of a fear or something. It's like just knowing who you are and the beautiful person you are and the possibilities you have and the imagination you have, the talent you have. And all that is what makes life worth living, and the community you have. Like, that is one of the most valuable things about this life. The felt presence of these experiences with each other. It's one of the most profound mysteries of us being here and us being beings.